You want to look at some of the worst contracts, Lepore?
Well, it's way more fun.
It's a lot of fun.
That's a
So
lot of fun.
the worst contracts in the NHL. Do you want to guess who the worst contract is, according to Dom?
Okay, let's see. I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll get embarrassed again. Uh, quickest ones that come to mind: Erik Karlsson. He's got to be there.
Yeah, he's on the list.
Okay, now we're rolling. Karlsson. I'm thinking defenseman. I'm thinking he's gonna have defenseman. Oilers fans, Darnell Nurse.
You nailed it. He's on this list as well. One of the 10 worst contracts in hockey.
What number is he at?
He's number 5 on the list.
Okay. Based on the reaction of when the deal was on, I'm going to say Seth Jones.
He's also on the list. 3 for 3. You want to
really
stop
good at the
there
bad
before
ones.
you ruin your perfect streak?
Yeah. Who else has a really bad contract in terms of performance? I guess he didn't do goalies, right?
No, there's no goalies on this list. I don't
Those
even think he included goalies.
I'm trying to think of like forwards. Like who? Are Sagan and Ben there?
One of them is. Tyler Seguin is on the list. And Lepore, I like that you mentioned that because he has Seguin listed as the worst contract in the NHL.
There you go.
And I'll just start going through the list here. So, like you said, Seth Jones also on the list. He's number 2. Jeff Skinner, number 3.
Oh, of course. Of course, Skinner. Yeah, of course.
Mark-Edward Vlasic, who I'm just realizing is still in the NHL.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He was, a lock for Team Canada for a bunch of years. And then with the Sharks kind of fading away, he also faded away into oblivion.
Who did the Sharks have? Like they had Karlsson, Vlasic, Burns, and I'm forgetting one, aren't I?
No, I don't think you're forgetting another like top defenseman, but then you add in like Thornton, Marlowe, Pavelski, Logan Couture, Evander Kane. Like he had so many good players, man.
Yeah, but like there was like 20 million on those 3 guys, and like they weren't very good.
That team just fell off a cliff. Then we have
I'm more referring to the excitement. The excitement like Karlsson got there, everyone was all excited about what they would be.
Yeah, but then we have Darnell Nurse at number 5. Coming in at number 6, Colton Parayko. Karlsson, number 7. Another defenseman, Zach Werenski. Surprisingly,
because he's got a good rep. And maybe that's playing in Columbus, like a place like Columbus.
Yeah, and because he signed a pretty big deal, $9.6 million a year for 6 years. So he's really got to bring it to return value on that. Nick Suzuki, Habs fans, coming in as the 9th worst contract in the NHL, according to Dom. And then rounding out the list, someone who we ripped on the last show and people thought we were insane. Well, I mean, not everyone thought we were insane, but a lot of Red Wings fans thought we were nuts. Ben Sherratt, the 10th worst contract in the NHL.
See that one. I see the 10th worst, but like a lot of these guys are making big money and they don't deserve it. Like you mentioned, Werenski, like Sagan's got a big contract, like Karlsson's got a big number. All these guys, Darnell Nurse, Seth Jones, big numbers. Werenski's making what, like 3.5?
No, Lepore, Werenski's making 9.
I'm sorry, Sherrod. I'm sorry, Sherrod.
Oh, Sherrod. Yeah, he's making 4.8.
Okay, so
over
pushing
the next
5.
4 years.
But I'm just saying, like, again, it's based on value. Mm-hmm. It's only 4.8, but it's still that bad. Whereas you can see like the guy making 10 million, okay, deserves 6. So it's like a 50% drop back for a guy to be only making 4.8 making 4.8 million and to be on that list. That's impressive by Ben Sherrod. Way to go.
Yeah, that's looking like a brutal contract.
It hasn't even started yet.
You should go check out our video talking about Ben Sherratt being the worst free agent signing in the NHL. I'm sure you'll really enjoy that. Unless you're a Red Wings fan, and then you're probably going to want to yell at us and do bad things to us. But the one guy I want to talk about on this list specifically is Nick Suzuki.
Oh.
Because Habs fans love this guy. You know, a lot of people calling him the next Patrice Bergeron, and he's so elite. And they made it to the Cup final 2 years ago, and he's going to take this huge leap. Lepore, last season, Nick Suzuki, in all 82 games, he played the full season. Good for him. 21 goals, 61 points. And I get that team was horrendous, but he has yet to take that leap in terms of a production standpoint, like becoming close to a point per game player, close to a 30-goal scorer. We just have not seen it yet. And the Habs locked him up to a pretty big contract.
It starts now, right? Because he started early last year, but yeah.
$7.9 million over 8 years. So I believe Josh Norris got essentially the exact same contract from the Ottawa Senators. And Josh Norris has proven that he can produce at a point per game. As I look up Norris's numbers from last season, he had 55 points in 66 games, but also scored 35 goals. So he had a better season than Nick Suzuki. All right. So what are your thoughts on Suzuki being on this list?
I don't know. I like the player. I mean, I'm just using my eyes here. Funny how weird that is now in today's sports world. Like I'm just watching and giving an opinion rather than looking at data. But I don't know. Like that's a tough one because you said Montreal was so bad. And I know Dom is sometimes quick to say when guys don't show well in his metrics that it may be because like the team is dragging him down. But $8 million, I think it's going to be okay for Montreal. Like, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh my God, he's going to be a 40 goal, 80 point guy, knock it out of the park, and it's a slam dunk. But I don't think it's going to be a devastating contract. At the end of the day, like he's in his third year, he was in the 20s for goals, 60 points. Thing is too, someone pointed out that the cap's going up in 2 years, right? Perfect timing for Austin Matthews, #Leafs. So a lot of these guys that are signing long-term deals now, if it's going up in 2 years, I'd like to think that kind of like the cap trajectory should continue at a pace where it's going up $1 million or $2 million every year. So some of these contracts that are getting signed like that one may end up being really good contracts.
That's a really good point.
It's all about percentage wise, right? Like people always look at the number of a player makes and say, oh, this guy only makes this. It's like, yeah, well, but that guy signed 2 years ago. So then you break it down. It's like, okay, he signed for 12.5% of the cap at the time. So like, here's Suzuki at $8 million, he's still young. In 5 years, if he's a very good player, even an elite player, that contract could look pretty fucking nice. I mean, again, I think everyone knew it was like a semi gamble, but he's got star power. And like, I think Montreal fans won't regret that one in the future.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to look that bad down the road. If you're the Montreal Canadiens coming off that playoff run they had, where Suzuki was actually really good in the playoffs, 16 points in 22 games, had some really big moments. You're betting on his future. And he's still only 22 years old. So this contract, like you said, Laporte, could look really good down the line. But right now, is he worth $8 million a year? No, based on his production, he definitely isn't. But he could very well become that as soon as next season. And then he'll be off this list, and Habs fans won't be mad at Dom Lucian, and they won't be mad at us, and specifically me.
But even then, even if it does take him, say, a year or 2 or 3 to fully get his mojo going and come into that contract, does anyone see Montreal being like uber competitive? Funny, we didn't even talk about them earlier. I don't think we brought up the Montreal Canadiens while talking about the Atlantic Division. So at least for the next 2 years, I don't think people see Montreal being uber competitive. So who cares if he takes up cap space and you locked him in at that price, if he's going to develop into a good player. And the time when you're getting value out of that deal is a time where you're trying to win games.
Yeah, I think long-term, this contract is going to look okay. The thing for the Montreal Canadiens is, can they continue to surround Suzuki and Cole Caulfield with the right talent? And they just picked Juraj Slafkovsky, number 1, who looks like he could be a very impactful power forward in the league, maybe a guy who can score 30 to 40 goals soon. I'm not saying he's going to do that in his rookie season, but looks like a very promising player. So we'll give the Habs a break. They're still in their rebuild. They got a lot of young players. We don't hate you, Montreal Canadiens fans. Sometimes you really piss me off, but for the most part, I do love your passion.
Once in a while. But I'll say this, Bruno, we'll stay on the Atlantic Division. This is a fun one. And this is a good comment down below, everyone. Who will score more goals this season? Tim Stützle or Cole Caulfield?
Great question. Ooh, I'm going to go, you know what?
And both in contract years, right?
I'm going to go with I'm gonna go with Caulfield.
Oh, nice.
Just because I think he's more of a pure scorer.
Okay.
I think Stützle will probably end up with more points.
You're copying out, Bruno.
But I think they can both score 30 plus this year. But I think Caulfield has like more elite goal scoring upside. Like I think Caulfield can score. I'm more confident in Caulfield hitting 35 to 40, as opposed to Stützle hitting that same benchmark.
Yeah, I think you convinced me because I was like, okay, kind of going either way. But then if I look at it, it's like, okay, I think I'd be surprised if Caulfield didn't score 30, to be honest. But if Stützle got like 28 and like 45, 50 assists, like I wouldn't be surprised either. But it'd be the goals. Like I'd say, like I'll be shocked if Cole Caulfield doesn't score 30 goals. So yeah, you convinced me.
Oh yeah, especially with how great he was when St. Louis took over. Like Caulfield, I believe, had like 2 goals in his first 30 games.
Yeah, he got robbed.
With 23 on the season in 67 games.
Yeah, he got robbed of the Calder, right?
Yeah,
like that he had.
If St. Louis was there from day one, I think he probably runs away with the Calder because he easily hits 30 goals. And, sure, the Habs were still terrible, but at least he would have had the numbers.
Yeah, like his pace at the end was hilarious. I'd like to look up what his shooting percentage was during that phase, like if it makes sense or everything was just going in for him, which is probably likely the case when you're scoring that many goals in that many games. But no, I expect Caulfield to have a big year goal wise. Again, contract year. So here he comes, everyone.
Yeah, should be a very, very exciting year in the Atlantic Division. A lot of good teams, a lot of exciting young players.